All right, people. We are back to discuss the next game on the agenda, and that is Ipswich at home. So, relegation fodder meets relegation fodder. A little less so in Man United's case because we believe we uh, we're assured. Don't know how for how long for. We're assured that we are not involved with this relegation scrap, despite positionally being pretty much right next to these teams. However, points accumulation, about 30 points at the moment. We are in a relatively safe position from relegation as of right now. However, this could change very quickly because that happens in football. And Manchester United are not really the sort of team that you'd say you can bet on them to stay away from a situation in football. You can bet on them to avoid catastrophe in football. Man United are the sort of team that you can bet on getting lassoed in to this crisis scenario. And that's kind of what it feels like right now. It does feel like it is absolute crisis at Manchester United, and it perhaps is. I say it perhaps is. It actually is. It absolutely is, because everything's going down the toilet. Everything's going down the pan, and I don't think I've really seen as many Manchester United supporters of different backgrounds and even on a content creation level, be so unanimously on the same wavelength as to how they feel about a singularity at the club, which is to which the Glazer ownership as well as Ineos and what they've been doing. So of course, with Ineos, as you can see there, Glenios out. That's not really going to change. But for the Glazers, they are assuming they are being reassumed as the targets for fan disdain now, and we're seeing all sorts of horrendous things, press releases being brought to the forefront of the Manchester United landscape, and all the different things going on. I mean, we've just recently, like in the last hour, had tickets for MUFC's game versus Ipswich, Fulham, and Real Sociedad have gone on general sale. Um, and you don't make a financial decision like that, just because you feel, extra, very sort of, we're feeling very hospitable. Let's make you feel a little bit better, guys. It's not like that. I think these are little actions that they're just trying to, like you've got a pot, like a pot on the stove. It's boiling over. You can see the lid is bubbling all over the top, and you're doing these little things just to lower the temperature slightly, and it'll keep the lid on for just a little bit of time, and then they'll stick the heat back up. It feels like Ineos are sort of trying to do little things to temper, to tail off the aggression from the Man United fans in their disdain and their anger, and rightfully so. We've had the announcement that Christopher Vivell is being appointed as a permanent director of recruitment, where he fulfilled his position initially on an interim basis. He is now here to stay, which I suppose, regardless of what we feel about Ineos, I mean, Glazers and Ineos could just, up and leave, but it doesn't mean Christopher Vivell would leave as well. I'd imagine you'd probably stay put if we were to switch ownership. But we can live in hope. We can live in hope. But yeah, he's going to have quite an important job in the summer to actually deliver on supporting the manager. And by the looks of it, the approach that we are looking at in the recruitment side of things is to focus on more signings in the same ilk as Eleni Yoro and Chido Obi Martin and Patrick Dorgu and Aiden Heaven. So definitely not your sort of big name players or household names, or even though that we are talking uh, stories circulating about Victor Osherman again. Um, so I don't know what the case is. There's also talks with um, Quenda talks for the summer as a summer transfer, trying to do that business early. Um, I just feel like the timing of that particular release, it's sort of, I think what's going on is they're sort of releasing news pieces in two, and it's coming out in twos. We're seeing the board trying to quickly or silently release the rage bait, and then to try and stick a plaster straight over the top of it. It's like someone goes into the street, walks by you, slices your hand with a knife, but on the other hand, they very quickly put a plaster over the top, and you're just like, ow, what the fuck? They still sliced your hand. It's still there. The bad news is still there. It's not like it never happened. But they're trying to do that to sort of like, we're going to piss you off, but we're going to make it all better again. It's not really. It's my words to you, Ineos, is that it's not really working anymore because we're quick to cut through the PRBS that the Glazers have been tactically trying to spin on the fan base for the past decade, and I think despite the tactics usually with Glazer ownership, as if if everyone's mad at the Glazers, they'll just tell the club, instruct the club, here's a lot of money, go spend it, make them happy, and shut them up again. I really don't think this is going to work out anymore. You know, your transfer spin, your we're going to be making Man United really competitive again. It's not going to cut it anymore. This ship has sailed well and truly, and it's out. It's really far out in the ocean now. We know it's not docked in at the bay. We we're not buying your stories anymore. It's all over for you. That's gone. What's going to probably happen now is plans in the fan base to try and disrupt the ownership and what the ultimate aim for them is. I mean, there's a lot of talk about need to be financially stable, sustainable. If I scroll down a little bit to try and have a look, um, see what has been spoken about. So yeah, apparently as well with the ending of free lunches at Old Trafford, that the club are apparently saving £1 million per year. Apparently, according to other outlets, from what people have said from Carrington or those that used to work there, is that the cost of the lunches or the catering at Carrington training ground was not equivalent to £1 million a year, um, which I would think that's a little bit overzealous as well for lunches costing or free lunches costing the club £1 million a year, unless there was something else going on there. But I don't believe that it should really equate to that. But apparently, with Omar Barada, a couple of statements as well. Of course, Man United confirm further redundancies. As part of these measures, the club anticipates approximately 150 to 200 jobs may be made redundant. Subject to a consultation process with employees, these should be in addition to 250 roles removed last year. So the funny thing is, right, is that we're targeting areas for cost cutting, right? I don't necessarily think the issue is just primarily how much we're spending as a football club. I do believe that this club is criminally overspending in many areas, but this area, I feel like your major point in various aspects, you slim the departments down and you streamline them, you make them effective, right? Without selling what's there too short, to keep it very motivated, to keep everyone sort of like, well, I mean, it wouldn't be my first point of addressal to cut the departments down, but I can get on board with it because they are fully supporting for us, that for those of us that are really staying here. The message from the ownership, from Ineos, is essentially telling everyone at the club, just so you know, even if you're really good at your job, you might still get let go because we don't see the point in you spending money on you, right? Which I think is absolute lunacy, genuine lunacy, because the point is the very, very best people are definitely going to keep their jobs, right? And these are people that don't work for hundreds of thousands of pounds a year, by the way. These aren't like big wages. These are really probably below where you get your average sort of middle of the park yearly salary, right? Like apparently the Manchester United's annual salaries are generally quite similar. Like there's no premium payment at in terms of working for Man United. Apparently the wages for your standard workers at the club are actually quite low. So it does beg the question as to, well, since people are on such low wages at the moment by just standard working positions, meanwhile you've got people that are just terrible at their jobs in the playing squad, yet you pay them way over the odds. Why is it that we are generalizing the working class at the club as the problem here, as the financial anomaly? Why has that got to be the sole focus of fixing up? You've already taken away 250 jobs. You've already acclaimed, oh, we have saved this much money, guys. Why are you continuing down the same path? I mean, you're still paying, a ludicrous amount of money to players that are not non-beneficial to the club, that are costing the club dearly, and the state of play is regressing itself. But people don't realise this, especially at Ineos's level. They're not quite clocking the severity of the situation. See, because I don't think I necessarily have the exact quote on this, but supposedly it is that the financial aspect in terms of their planning for what they've got planned, the aim in sort of ticking the boxes financially is that Manchester United for like the next 4 years or so, 4 to 5 years, need to consistently be involved in Europa League football. And it's with that, that's what Ineos were assuming this plan on, right, about qualifying for Europa League. And I'm thinking, first and foremost, that's a very low set bar for the standards of Manchester United. Second off, we're not even hitting that. You know, we're not even hitting that. So the assumed standard to work out this financial game plan for Ineos is not even being achieved. So it does beg the question: what other tremendously bad financial decisions are going to follow up now? Um, in the sense that we are quite a long ways behind financially for what we are targeting. We're a long way behind, and that's just for this season, right? We've almost got to absolutely incessantly poke and prod to get Champions League by winning Europa League, because we're not finishing top. We're not. I don't really think we're going to finish top 10 in the Premier League. So God knows. Um, If not through Europa League, then it has to be through the FA Cup. But I don't see us winning either of those two competitions. So the situation, even in Ineos's case, goes from bad to downright beyond ugly. So what's the plan here? What's the contingency plan? Where is it that this club is going to have to go next to regulate the finances, to even, to balance the books, to even things out, to achieve your goals? And the state of play with the squad is that next season will not see the achievement of qualifying for European football either. I don't think the situation gets any better, not with Ineos at the helm. I do believe we'll spend some money to get players in, even though I think the outlook for that is really dim, like really, really dim. I'm not expecting, even the last summer, with the Delict, Mazraoui, um, Ugarte, Yoro. I'm not even expecting that sort of a summer. I'm expecting probably 3 first team players to end up coming in. The same old struggles in selling what's already here, and ultimately, we'll still be very firmly placed up shit creek, and there's no real general outlook or way out that we can go without some drastic measures being taken, ones in which, by the demeanor of Ineos, they will never take, right? With a football club, the whole point of owning a football club is you, as the owner, put in as much money as you want relative to what you want to see your club do, right? So if you put in £100 million into your club, you expect a return investment in terms of £100 million worth of achievement, right? Would you get that at Manchester United? Would putting lots of money into the club help? It would. It absolutely would. The debt that we've currently got at the club is not going anywhere. The club's accounts, which has the money that could have been used for transfers, which we still have £300 million worth of transfer fees still unpaid, right? There or thereabouts. We've spent about £1 billion. I think it is about £1 billion worth of debt interest payments. There's still about 700+ million pounds worth of debt on the club. That's crazy to think about. It's basically like paying somebody who's angry with you, that you owe money to, right? It's a debt. You basically, rather than telling them, okay, I'm going to give you £700 million here and now to clear that. I'm going to clear that debt with you, settle this so that you don't have to constantly be nagging and chasing me up. Instead, what I'm actually going to do, instead of doing that, I'm going to pay you little installments from someone else's bank account, right? That desperately needs that money. I'm going to take that money out of that account and keep just giving you little snippets so that your debt, what we owe you, doesn't necessarily go away, because the debt keeps, it stays there. It's just giving money to just like, don't take action against us yet. Don't come after us as loan sharks yet. Don't do any of that yet. We'll just keep wiring you little amounts here and there, just to satisfy you and keep you off our case just for a little while, and then there's no plan B after that, is there? No, there's no plan B. So it does make you wonder that the only reason why the Glazers took Ineos's offer rather than the Qatari offer. It's just because Glazers can stay on, but then all the financial problems that the Glazers have inherited, that have taken, right? What they've ended up doing is basically kicked back, popped their feet up on the table and said, "Right, Ineos, you take the brunt of the monetary issues." So then the Ineos have basically said, "Right, well, I can't put money." Well, Surgeon Ratcliffe, if you think about it, as a partial ownership, right? As we know, Glazers take dividends. They are probably one of the only football clubs in the entire world where an ownership actually retracts money out of the club rather than putting money in. Literally, zero money has gone in from the Glazers. They've only taken money out. One of the only clubs on planet Earth and in football history that's ever done that. One of, if not the only. Name me another owner that does that. It's irresponsible. It's completely irresponsible. But from Surgeon Ratcliffe's point of view, because of the accounts that they've been taking the money from for dividend payments, what if Surgeon Ratcliffe goes, "Here's £1 billion" into the club's accounts? Well, the Glazers, by ownership standing, still own the club. They can take dividends out. They can take some of that money from Surgeon Ratcliffe straight out. It's like it's with the deal that they've done, right? The deal that Ineos have done is a deal with the devil, except the money they paid to get that percentage is just solely to the Glazers. There's nothing there in that £1 billion thereabouts, right? Or 1.3 billion thereabouts. There's nothing there that basically says that any of this money is to benefit the club. And that's why I think with the little amount that Ineos have popped in was small enough, big enough to make a change about infrastructure at the training ground or to make some improvements here or there, but not significant enough to get the Glazers' attention for them to go, well, we might have to get some of that money, said Jim. We might have to have some of that money. That's what they are. They are they're blood-sucking leeches. The Glazers, absolutely blood-sucking leeches. They, if you stick a fiver in that, they are literally Mr. Krabs, right? And the club's accounts is relative to the Krusty Krab's accounts, right? He's gonna fucking take all of it. It doesn't matter if you believe, hey, this £1 billion is going to be to the betterment of the club. They're going to say, betterment of a club. Fuck you and your betterment of the club. I'm taking this. Thank you very much. Well, can he say no? The Glazers still own part of the club. What are you going to do about it? You can't do anything. So, good luck. You got into bed with the Glazers. You've absolutely fucked yourself with any genuine aspirations you have for this club. But hey, it could have gone a different way if you had just put some big money on the table to secure 100% of the club. However, would you have done that? The only person that's promised to have done all of those things in sorting out the finances at this club straight up was Qatar. Now, the irony is that there's going to be a lot of United fans that will be sitting there saying Glazers out again, but they wanted Ineos in. I didn't want Ineos. I wanted Qatar. I said that, bring Qatar in, I'll buy a big fucking Qatari flag to pin up behind me. I'll stick a big Qatari flag in my room. And I'd say, here's to the future of Manchester United. But we didn't get that. Instead, we got one ownership, or one group that has essentially failed its project at Nice, right? Now is in Manchester United with a partial ownership, and they are cutting down hundreds of people's jobs. They are cutting down on so many different departments of the club. instead of focusing on the big prominent issues in wasteful spending at the club. So it's like, where are we going from here? Where exactly are we going from here? Well, I suppose it's just we're going to have to see what the fans do. We're going to have to see what the fans do, and I've listened to what other fans have been talking about. I've seen on the socials, oh, everybody empty Old Trafford, like hashtag empty Old Trafford for this big protest against Arsenal. Do you know what I would say? Do all of the little things as well. Do the online campaigns again, because actually the I think it did end up causing TeamViewer to not renew their sponsorship deal with the club. Online campaigns against the sponsorships does take notice. It does make the sponsorships notice, and it does cause a headache for the club to have to deal with finding replacement sponsorships. You're forcing the club to have to work, but keep on top of those online campaigns, right? Be an absolute nuisance. You've got, I think, a lot of people who say empty Old Trafford. Apparently, from what I've heard in another stream, that a Liverpool fan said that with one of their previous ownerships before FSG, one of the things you actually can do is, rather than leaving early or just not going at all, that's going to be a bit difficult, is encourage fans that are going, to fill out capacity, but stay there in the seats. Like after the game, like 1, 2 hours, 3 hours, stay as long as you possibly can after the game, because the stewards that the club have to pay off, because the Premier League don't actually pay those stewards. I think it's the clubs that actually sort the payments for the matches. Um, Apparently, for as many of those stewards as you hire, um, if you have like tens of thousands of fans just stay in Old Trafford for hours after the game, those stewards have to stay. They have to stay. They have to work overtime. That's more money that the club has to then pay to them for them to stay there. To keep making sure these fans don't walk onto that pitch. See, and the thing is, right, is that technically, because you paid for your seat, you paid for your ticket, you paid the admission to be there on that day, unless you're harassing other, fans in the ground, they don't necessarily have any rights to eject you. They don't necessarily have the rights to do that. So you could sit there all day if you want. Sit there right until the sun goes down. They switch the lights off as well. You're allowed to stay. You should be allowed to stay. So there you go. There's another plan. There's another idea. Like 75 that, well, not 75,000, because you've got the away section as well, but about 70,000, 60 to 70,000 fans just staying in their seats for hours after the game, constantly chanting anti-ownership, anti-Ineos, anti-Glazer, anti all of these things, right? The club are going to get a massive headache, right? And all of these people, right? Like if like Barada's there and Vivel's there and all of these other, I think most specifically Barada or Brailsford, if Brailsford's there, and he ends up leaving the venue, right? And he sees somewhere like 2 hours later that there's still fans in the ground chanting against him. He's gonna be like, "Oh Jesus, Jesus, this is not good. This is not good." Like there's loads of things that fans can do, right, that they think are inconsequential, that are insignificant, but when it stacks, when it builds up, when it mounts up, it all counts towards something. Genuinely does. So it's always worth conversing with other fans that are involved with the club, that are involved with the supporter side of it. MUST could give radio silence to the club. Could be like, we're not going to do anything about it. The fans are pissed off, so are we. Um, if it's annoying you, you should have thought about that before doing all the things you're doing. Should have thought about it. But you know, sucks to suck. Unfortunately, Jimbo and Dave. So, or Uncle Fester. We'll call Brailsford Uncle Fester. you look a little bit like Uncle Fester, but still, there's plenty of things that the fans can do to protest against the ownership and to get the Glazers out once and for all. Plus all the financial plans that that Ineos have in cost cutting and balance the books. It's not going all according to plan because the players are actually a lot worse. If they set the bar low, these players went lower. They went lower. It's the biggest clusterfuck you've ever seen for a football club ever. The biggest clusterfuck. And the only way that it stops, ends, or changes or improves is with an ownership change. And it won't get better. Like, this is it, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. This is the Ragnarok of Man United. This is end game. We are past the point of no return, right? Ineos, you can't run unless you do some madness, absolute out of pocket madness that goes against the grain of cost cutting, that you end up sticking billions on the table, or you buy out the rest of the Glazers and then you start really pumping money into the club, right? Unless you're going to do that, it's over. You're done. You're finished. You can't bring it back now. It's too late. You've lost. The Glazers, you've lost. Yeah, you're just a frog in the boiling pot, right? That's slowly heating up, and you have no idea what's going on. Zero idea. And it's starting to get a little bit uncomfortable. It's starting a little bit uncomfortable. And you don't realize that you are currently on course very soon to getting burnt beyond recognition. And that's going to be the state of your ownership at the end of the day, non existent. And the fact is, right, is that rival fans, actual rival fans that usually take great pleasure in Man United losing every week, are actually coming out and showing support and saying, well, actually, fuck the Glazers, because let's be real, if the Glazers stay, ultimately there will be no Manchester United. There will be no Manchester United. The club will not stick around forever with the Glazer ownership model. It won't. It will disappear. The club will disappear. And then it's like, if you enjoy a rivalry, right, and respect that you've got this rivalry with Man United, and you think all the historic battles you've had, you don't want to sit there and look back in the history book and say, oh, we had this great rivalry with Manchester United, the club that used to exist. You wouldn't want to say that. You want to say, well, actually, that's the club there today. This is what they were back in the history books, but look at what they are today, right? Even if you're not like winning trophies galore, just being run sensibly, not being shafted and then buried into the coffin, like buried, lowered into the ground in the casket, never to be seen or heard of again. Fans of other football clubs genuinely want an end to this Glazer ownership. They are on board as well. Not everybody, but there's probably only a few of each of these fan bases, but significant enough people. And they're coming around to the idea that what Ineos are doing, as well, with how they're handling the cost cutting side of things, and we've got to do these drastic things. Like, no, you don't actually. Believe it or not, no, you don't. You don't need to do all of these drastic things. You're just choosing to make these unpopular decisions because the Glazers won't help you. And if you dare put your own money into the situation, they might just take the money for themselves. I mean, there's nothing you can do. You signed your soul to the devil. You're working with the devil. So anything you do that you think is saint work, guess what? The devil's going to say, fuck you and your saint work. Fuck you and all the good that you do for Man United. We don't care about this club. Yeah, they're out of their minds. They're completely clueless. So, absolutely, I will sit here and I will say that ultimately, at the end of the day, any and all fans of football should be against Glazer ownerships. I mean, what was it? Ajax fans, well, have shown protest against the Glazers. Bayern fans have shown protest against the Glazers. Clubs of other European, other countries have shown a front against the ownership model of Manchester United. That's unprecedented. When other clubs, I mean, you don't necessarily see it with, foreign international clubs going, Nick out, Levy out. You don't see that. You haven't seen that. You've seen it with Man United, though. You've seen that loads of clubs across Europe are against the Glazer ownership because they see you cut through all the bullshit. The fact of the matter is that the Glazer ownership model is a club killer, but they've leached onto almost a bottomless pit of cash. Think about it like this: Manchester United is almost a bottomless pit of cash, right? And cash flow state coming in. The fact is that their ownership is so bad is that they've almost made an unlimited amount of cash limited. It's like if they took ownership of the Saudi league, you know how infinite Saudi and oil money is, how infinite that seemingly is. They'd probably bleed. They'd probably dry up the wells. They'd probably run out of cash. Like, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy to think about it like that. A near bottomless pit of cash, and they've still managed to make it a very shallow pit. So, what now, guys? What now? Like, you've got to get rid of these guys. We've got to get rid of these guys. But whether we'll see something tomorrow with the state of Ipswich, the Ipswich game, will we see? Um, will we see any protests or fan actions against Ipswich? I'm not sure. I don't really know, to be honest. But what we do know is that in Ipswich's case, um, a club that is struggling to really sort of have the quality to outdo Premier League opposition, but a club still properly run, properly owned. I mean, made the right managerial appointment and done relatively well. Well, I say relatively well. They've done massive, huge steps between the time that Kieran McKenna took over and today. So, it was about this time 3 years ago. Yeah, about this time 3 years ago is when Kieran McKenna took over. Ipswich were loitering bottom half of the table in League One. And now look at where they are. First full season in League One, promoted to the Championship. First full season Championship, promoted to Premier League. Like, even if they end up getting relegated, there's no reason to sacking Kieran McKenna at all. The fact that he's just gone from absolutely nowhere to somewhere, and for a club that likes to overachieve, and I'd say that in Ipswich Town are a club that's overachieved massively, and it's well within the ballpark of possibility of beating Man United tomorrow. So I'm I'm wary, I'm cautious of what this Ipswich team will be capable of. I think the quality is their biggest naysayer. I do. I think they're going to struggle to have the quality to beat pretty much any opposition. But ultimately, they've got one or two players in that team that give them enough of a good enough of an opportunity. They'll find a way to find impact, to make a difference, and ultimately, it just becomes a thing of discipline. What what can they do? What will they do? Um, what will they do to achieve their goals as a football club? I think with Ipswich, they're not really missing many people. I mean, in Ciso, Ogbene, that's pretty much it. We're still missing quite a few people. Um, the midfield balance should be a little bit better, though. Just a little bit better. But I'd expect for us to be able to at least get a job done. I'm not expecting anything special or spectacular. I'm just looking for 90 minutes where we have the edge, that we can take some of our chances and ultimately get a result across the line. And I think the youth has to be a big factor in the game tomorrow. I think we should start a few more players in the squad. I think Chido Obi needs to be given the nod. I think the lack of faith in Rasmus Højlund is becoming more prevalent, but who knows? Who knows? I think we do need to see more from Chido Obi, more game time, more sort of like pushing for him to play without the pressure and just you know you are this is your first team football that you're getting. Just play without pressure, play to have fun, and it's I mean the objectives of the Premier League are gone. So don't feel pressure, just do the best you can, and enjoy it, enjoy it as much as possible. So for me, I think that we are probably notioned to be victors tomorrow. I've gone with a 2-0 scoreline. I think that, given that we can have that blend of youth and experience in the team, that we should actually be able to do quite a lot of good work in the team. Um, what I'm just hoping is that we don't see a very obvious statement of these players are really not ready yet, like they perform proper below par. Like I don't want to see that. I hope that we don't see that if we do get some of the younger players playing. I'd like to see Kone get given some minutes. I know he's on the team sheet for the under-21s game today, or tonight rather. But even with the youth side of football, he is bound to feature in the squad. So maybe not starting tomorrow, but he might feature on the bench and still get minutes on the pitch. I think Heaven is bound to be involved as well. I think he could feature. I think it would be worth him featuring if we can get to a strong enough point in the game where we can substitute him on. And I think because the aim with, especially Christopher Vivel's appointment and the recruitment side of things, is that they are project players that he likes to sign and to recruit. And I think that's where we are headed. I think we are headed for a sort of maybe not as much cheap. Well, most of the players will be cheaper, but predominantly players that are not really sort of out there, that are not like, oh wow, this is a household name. They're going to have huge, profound impact. This is a signing that we got to nurture for the next 2 years and get him fully ready to playing first team football week in, week out on the third or fourth year. And if it doesn't work out, sell him on. If it does work out, fantastic. We've got a mainstay in the squad. Help to build the team around him. So that's, I think, it's probably what the generic feeling around the club is going to be. And I'd imagine that Ruben Amorim is probably starting to feel a bit of pressure to enacting that. I think to start playing some younger players, even if he doesn't really want to, he's probably going to be forced to, which is sort of along the lines of why I think this Quenda deal is being done, because it's like it's not just in the sense that it's a player that Amorim knows, it's that it's a player that's still quite young and still with a lot of potential. Get something done there that sorts out a signing for the right hand side of the pitch and his business done early. And its preparation into putting this team, this playing squad, closer to the project that it's what Ineos wants it to follow, or what Christopher Vivell or Omar Barada wants it to follow. But I don't really seek any of these new signings as a sort of like excitement factor, because ultimately it doesn't change the outlook or the forecast of the club. It doesn't really improve the situation for the club. We're still in, really troubled territory, really troubled territory. And just because we're signing Quenda for the summer and getting the deal done early doesn't make me feel any better about the club. It doesn't make me feel any better about Man United. And I think that's where all of us as fans, as a collective fan base, we need to be in the same boat. We need to be in the same understanding. This is not anywhere near good enough for Manchester United. Not to say that Quenda's not good enough for Manchester United, full stop, but getting excited about the signing and saying, "Oh my goodness, our prayers have been answered." Like, no, they haven't. They haven't been answered at all. If anything, our prayers have gone unanswered. We don't pray for the signing of Quenda. We pray for a Glazer-free ownership and an ownership model that, lets us be excited about transfers when they happen by default, but ultimately backs the fans to really be connected and feel connected to the club, and does everything to ensure that Man United is the most best looked after it can possibly be. But we're so far away from home with that. So far away from home with that. We're just complete different universes at this point. So I'm feeling a little disconnected from Manchester United, to be honest. As are a lot of fans. I mean, even FC United and Manchester, it's literally fully Manchester United fan-owned football club. All the fans that walked away from Man United in 2005 because they saw the Glazers take over, and they were the ones that warned us off this big takeover being an absolute travesty. The football club of FC United of Manchester, the official account, that's of course fan-owned, right? If they are also collectively jumping on board against this Ineos project. They do not they they do not see the way the club is being run today as at all acceptable. They've popped the differences aside in terms of, oh, we're focusing on our club, Manchester United focus on their own things. They're getting involved as well. They are standing in the same camp as the rest of the Manchester United fans, right? So we've got an official football club um, that is, that has joined the fray. I mean, football fans are angry. Football fans are very angry at the Glazer ownership, and I hope it's an upward trajectory. It's an upward trend. Chelsea fans are protesting right now, right before their game against Southampton, against Bluecoat, against Todd Bowley and Clear Lake, because their model, that the projects that they want to ensue, is anti-success. You don't win trophies. It's not a project that you go and say, this is going to make us successful. You say, this is going to bring us profits. The success is only a bonus. If we achieve it, we achieve it. If we don't, we don't. We don't care. As long as we can spin a profit, that's it. We're happy. Arsenal is a similar story, yet they don't go harpooning on about it 24/7 as this new brand spanking new project. It's just a simple case of whenever Arsenal get close to a Premier League, the ownership don't start getting giddy and start throwing money at it. They don't instruct the board, take 250 mil and sign some proper players that will be your big difference makers to win you that Premier League title. They don't do it. They just don't do it. But they've got PR, Tottenham as well. Daniel Levy, we've got our Tottenham back, yet you get fisted every other week. Absolutely fisted. No lube. But that's his Tottenham. That's Daniel Levy's Tottenham. Does it read green on the spreadsheets? Is there green on the spreadsheets? Yes. But are the results bad? Yes. Oh, well, that doesn't matter then because the green is on the spreadsheets. Look, you see that green there? See that it's not what us football fans have asked for. Nobody asked for this. Nobody. Yet here we are. FSG has had every opportunity, right, to arm Jurgen Klopp and Arne Slot to the back teeth. Every single time they have underwhelmed, right? It's taken for a manager to overachieve to achieve. That's the Liverpool ethos. So FSG, even though they're far and away, favourites to win a Premier League, you can still cut through the bullshit and say, well, look, they could have spent some good money. They could have spent that little bit extra and they would be as dominant as City were. As dominant. They had to have a manager overachieve just to make break even. But can't have it that way. Can't have it that way. You can't just constantly have a manager that has to, move heaven and earth to hit targets. Yeah, you can't just rely on that. See, the fans never asked for that. No, nobody has. So there's a lot of clubs that are in similar positions where the ownership is getting really sort of found out. Man United, we've had our issues for 19 now, going on 20 years, going on 2 decades of Glazer ownership and ownership issues. So yeah, I'm pissed. I'm pissed with my ownership. I'm pissed with my club. And I'm sure there's a lot of other fans out there that are the same. Even West Ham with, it's not, I've forgotten his name. But their ownership model. Even West Ham fans are unhappy. Newcastle fans have shown disdain, with the lack of signings or transfer activity, but they're relatively happy. It's not like Ashley. So they are happier, way happier. Aston Villa, going out and doing business. Even if it's loan deals, they're just doing business. They're active, constantly making signings, doing business. Non-stop. They're always on the move. That's intent. That is intent. There's other clubs that are picking up where other clubs are leaving off. So, make of that what you will. Score prediction with the game tomorrow. I've gone with 2-0 Man United. I think it'll be a difficult watch, a tough watch. But yeah, I think we'll have enough, just enough to get the result over the line. But yeah, my biggest hope for tomorrow's game is that we get youth featuring a lot more forefrontal in the game, in the team sheet as well. So I'm I'm hoping that we see that. Fingers crossed, Amarim takes the initiative and puts players, gives the youth a bit more leeway, a bit more chance, because the senior players, some of the senior players are probably more sabotage them playing than anything else. So I, th- I'm I'm waiting with eager anticipation. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What your predictions for the game tomorrow are, what your feelings about the ownership issues are, whether you think what the Glazers and Ineos are doing to working class people is, whether you think it's acceptable or whether you think it's a disgrace, and whether you think that Ineos is just here to give the Glazers to save their monetary situation, and beyond that, if you guys believe that football would be better off without ownership like the Glazers, like Blue Co and Clear Lake, like the Cronkies, like Enoch and Levy, like FSG, then put it down in the comment section. Enough is enough. Get out, you stingy, profit-seeking billionaires. We want billionaires that want the trophies, want the smoke and want the gold. Bring those guys in. Get the profiteers out of football. Take care, everybody. Don't forget to smash a like and subscribe. This is a very long one today, but that's what she said. But things that needed to be said and have been said. So let me know what you guys think. Take care, and we'll see you again tomorrow for the good, the bad, and the downright ugly, as well as a match review, which may follow up on the Thursday, depending on how long the show goes on for. Actually, it'll probably have to come on the Thursday. So we'll talk about the game on the Thursday, definitely. But tomorrow, definitely the good, the bad, and the ugly. Take care, people, and we'll see you again. We should see you tomorrow. Didn't have the Sunday night takeaway show either because Tont decided that he was going to give up Stansted Airport and go mess around with Manchester Airport. So, yeah, it is what it is. But never mind. I'm sure he'll be back, and we'll be back tomorrow for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Take care, people.